All right, guys, one question I get a lot is how do I justify the cost of my service to a potential client, or how do I know what to charge? Now, I would love to be able to say, charge $500 for restaurants, charge $1,000 for solo real estate agents, charge $1,500 for chiropractors, charge $5,000 for high-rise real estate buildings. I'd love to be able to tell you that. And honestly, that's not a bad little start there. But a great way to be able to do this is to let the client tell you what they're okay with. Because if they tell you what they're okay with first, they can't really argue, right? So here's how to do this. So the first thing we need to find out is, would you be happy with blank? Would you be happy with blank? What is blank? Very simple. The first thing we need to do to figure out blank is we need to figure out what they are okay with in terms of ROI. So if I say, let's say the client's name is John, and I say, okay, John, how many sales would you need, how much revenue would you need to make to justify, and I'm just pulling a number out here, $1,500 a month, okay? Call it ads, call the ad spend 500, so let's just say 2,000. If it costs you 2,000 a month, how much would you need to make to be happy? Now, many times they'll say 4,000. That's easy. You're gold. But they might say 20,000. They might say 100,000. They might say 10,000. So the very first thing you need to figure out is what would they be happy with? Estimate your fee and say what would they be happy with. All right. Now, if they give you some crazy number, they're probably not going to be a good client. If they give you a low number, they're probably going to be a very easy client. If they give you a number in the middle, probably be an average client. Okay? So this not only kind of pre-frames them to why it's going to be okay for them to hand you money, but it lets you figure out what kind of client they're going to be, because it's about you too. You have to be happy with yourself dealing with them and having them as a client. Keep that in mind. It's not all about them. So would you be happy with blank? Now, I know you're probably asking, well, Dan, how do I figure out blank? How do I just make up a number? Well, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. But I'm trying to explain the concept right now. So would you be happy with blank? So at this point, we need to figure out, okay, fine. How many leads can they close? So I would ask, I would say, if I send you 10, I'll put QL, qualified leads, how many sales can you make? Now, another great way to say this is, what's your closing ratio? Or you could even, if you fill out the conversation, you could even say, how good of a closer are you? And you appeal to their ego. So, I'm a great closer, okay? I'm a great closer. Because a lot of times, if you say, well, if I send you 10 leads, how many sales can you make? They'll say, well, it depends on the leads. So you can either say, if I send you 10 qualified leads, how many sales can you make? Or even better than this, how good of a closer are you? And they'll say, I'm really good. And then I say, well, so if you had 10 qualified leads, if I sent you 10 qualified leads, how many sales would you get? So because you already asked how good of a closer they are, it pre-frames them to wanting to brag. So now they give you a decent number for this. So they might say, well, 50%, okay? So if they say, let's say they say 50%, right? And keep in mind, guys, one quick thing. If they're like, well, I don't know, I'm not a very good closer. Well, that means you shouldn't have them as a client because they can't close and they're not going to pay you very long. So right there, it cuts them out. But if they say, oh, yeah, 50%, then I would say, okay, so let's be conservative here. So if I send 10 leads, you close 5. They'll say, yeah, that's about right. And I'll say, okay. I'll say, well, let's be a little bit more conservative. Let's take that 5 and make it 3, okay? So 3. We'll use the number 3. How much is each sale worth? So that's what I ask then. I say, how much is each sale worth? How much is each sale worth to you? So let's say they say $1,000, right? So 3 times 1,000 equals $3,000. Okay? So I say, okay. So then, and I just keep going back. I say, all right, so then if I send you 10 leads, you're going to make at least $3,000. Because you say you can close 5 out of 10, but we're going to be conservative and say you can close 3. So if I send you 10 leads, 10 qualified leads, on the phone, whatever it is, you're telling me, and you always say you're telling me, you say you're telling me you're going to make $3,000, right? And they should say yes. And you say, because the reason I'm asking you this is I never like to take on a client that doesn't make an incredible ROI for me. So I like to make sure first that if I send them these leads, they're going to make money from it. So this makes them feel like, oh, wow, he cares about me. And you do care about them because you want them to get results, but you also want to get paid. And if they're terrible at closing, you're not going to get paid. Maybe you will for a month or 2. So this is all part of the process. So once they say yes, so you figure out this calculations, you say yes. So then you say, all right, well, listen, you just told me that if I send you 10 leads, 10 qualified leads, you're going to make $3,000. So my goal for this next month is to send you 50 qualified leads. So you blow it out of the water, which 50 leads in a month, that's easy. All right? So my goal is to send you 50 qualified leads, and between my cost and the ad cost, it's going to cost you probably about $2,000. $1,500 for my fee and around $500 in ad spend. Okay? So you're like being really, really conservative here. All right, you're talking 50 leads for $500, okay, plus your fee. You're being really conservative. And you're basically saying, you're going to put $2,000 in. I'm going to send you at least 50 qualified leads, but honestly, I could send you probably 100 and 150. It just depends on how many you can handle. But let's say I send you at least 50 super qualified leads, okay, and it costs you $2,000. And keep in mind here, sir, I'm being very conservative because I can send you a lot more than 50 leads for $2,000, but I'm being super conservative. If I send you 50 leads based on what you told me, you're going to make way more than my fee, right? And they'll say, yeah. And then I say, are you okay with that? Are you okay with putting, so let's see. I'm terrible at shorthand math. What's 50 qualified leads? So if they close, where did I put here? 30%, so 30%. So what's 30% of 50? I'm terrible at math. 15? Okay. So I skipped math class. So 15. So now 15 times 1,000, that's 15 grand. If you're like me, have a calculator on hand. So that's 15 grand, right? So based on what you're telling me, and we're being conservative here, sir. You don't call him sir, just Bob, whatever. Bob, I'm being conservative. Based on being super, super conservative, you put 2 in, you're going to get 15 out. Are you okay with that? And then they say, yes. Okay, they say yes. And you say, listen, Bob, I'm going to send you more than 50 leads. I'm going to, there'll be people that don't answer the phone. There'll be people that don't come in. You know that. That's part of the game. But what I'm doing right here is I'm giving you a super conservative number, because what's possible with Facebook ads is incredible compared to any other form of advertising. And it's all trackable, and we can tweak it, make it better and better every month. And I'm being super conservative here on what I can do for you, because I want you to see the value and how much you can make. Money you put in versus money you put out. Okay, you put $1 in, you get 5 out. You put $1 in, you get 3 out. You put $1 in, you get 10 out. That's what I'm here to do. So I don't want you to think about it as how much I'm charging you. I want you to think about it as what's the most we can put in so we can get more out. That's the secret. And this is one line I use. I say, the secret, this is, I guess, what you would call a pattern interrupt. When they say, how much does it cost? I say, well, most people, they try to figure out how they can spend as little as possible on Facebook advertising. But the secret is, if you want to make a lot of money, you got to figure out how to spend the most. because Facebook ads is all about putting $1 in and getting 5 out. And once you can do that, you want to spend as much as possible, right? If you had a magic box and you put $1 in it, you close the box, you open the box, and you pulled out 5, what would you do? Now the client, when you say that analogy, they're going to say, well, I put more money in the box. Exactly. Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to set this up so that we can put more money in the box and get more out. All right, these are all just little closing strategies. And what you've done from here down is you've let them tell you that they're going to make money. You didn't tell them they were going to make money. They told you they were going to make money because they're giving you the numbers on their closing. They're giving you the numbers on how good they are and their percentage. They're giving you all these numbers. And you're simply telling them, look, if we're super conservative here and we do this, this is how much you can make. But before I take you on as a client, I asked you these questions because I want to make sure that you can make money. I don't like taking money from people that can't make it back. If you cover all of these things in this whole script here, okay, the chances that your client will say yes and hand you money are very high. I usually get to this part after the 2-question close. So I first do the 2-question close, and then once it comes time to actually getting money, and they ask how much it costs and everything, this is a great way to close that out. So I hope to see you guys use some or all of this and close more clients. Oh, and before I forget, for those of you still wondering, what number should I charge? All you really have to do is look at, if I give you this much in and get you that much out, you look at that and you try to get the maximum number that you think they'll be comfortable with, at least 5 to 1. So for instance, if they're gonna put in $2,000, they're gonna need to get $10,000 back. Okay, so a minimum of $10,000 back for you to charge $1,500 plus $500 in ad spend. Try to look at it at the total. Like just estimate we'll spend $500 this month on ads or whatever. And go like that. So for instance, if you were talking to a restaurant, right? A restaurant is not going to give you this number. They're going to give you something way lower than this. All right? So as long as you can stay 5 to 1 in that, you're good. I would say never charge less than $500 and try to stay at 5 to 1. Try to stay about 5 to 1. All right? So if you can go 5 to 1 on this. Now, once you get, if somebody gives you crazy numbers, like a mortgage broker, they're like, well, I'm going to make $700,000 if I put $2,000 in. You can't be sitting there charging, $100,000. I mean, because that's just going to blow them out of the water unless you're going after some big firm or something. So try to stay at a minimum of 5 to 1. Okay. So if you're okay with charging $1,500 a month and they're getting 10 to 1, you should be fine. But try to never charge where they're not at least getting 5 to 1. And that's kind of how you can figure out your an idea of what you can charge. I think $1,500 a month is a great starting point, and you can go up or down from there, but I wouldn't go lower than $500.